Sonny Dykes calls out Tennessee and other schools for tampering with his players and says his team is not for sale.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by Monarch Money. End of the month coming up here. First of the month coming up as well. Get that budgeting app, Monarch Money. It's also your all-encompassing, all-in-one wealth management center. Give Monarch Money a try today. Sonny Dykes says that people are throwing money at his players. Teams are throwing bags at his players. And it doesn't matter because his team is not for sale. He did an interview today with 365 Sports where he praised the culture that they have built at TCU. And the question was about Josh Hoover. Now, David Smoke, the host there at 365 Sports, he did not name Tennessee outright. Neither did Sonny. But it's obvious they were talking about Nico Maliava leaving Tennessee. Because of that, there was suddenly an opening for a quarterback there. And they decided to go after Josh Hoover, at least call his representatives. His team said, you know what? We're good. Thanks for the offer. Here's what Sonny said about that situation and just tampering in general.
You know, what a distraction for us, just because we know what kind of person Josh is and how committed he is to TCU and how much he loves his teammates and loves playing here and being a Horned Frog. And so I think that makes you feel a little bit more at ease. I mean, you still never know. You know, there's a lot of people throwing around a lot of money, and it's hard, you know, for a 20, 21-year-old young man to pass up that kind of life-changing money in some cases. But Josh was all about playing at TCU. You know, he had some opportunities. Some people reached out. You know, there was kind of a high-profile quarterback that moved on, and Josh had an opportunity because of that. And, you know, he elected to stay here, never really considered it. And, you know, I think that's the one thing that we really like that we have going right now at TCU is I think we have a great culture in our program. And, you know, I don't know that our guys are for sale. And so I think these guys enjoy going to school here. They want to be part of this team. You know, we're like everybody else, and we're fortunate. I mean, our players are making money. We're fortunate that when the revenue sharing thing takes place, when that shift occurs, you know, we're going to fund that to the max. And so our players are going to be well compensated. But, you know, that's not the basis of our program. You know, we're not out talking about money with players all the time. That's not the kind of players we recruit. You know, we say it all the time as a program. You know, recruiting's like fishing. Whatever kind of bait you use, that's the kind of fish you catch. We don't park, you know, fancy cars in our stadium, and we don't have jet airplanes and all that silly stuff. You know, guys come to TCU because they want to play football. They want to get a great degree. They want to be around good people. They want to play in a good culture. They want to live in Fort Worth, and a city that's growing and provides a lot of opportunities for graduates when they're done playing football. They want to be developed. We feel like we've got one of the top strength and conditioning programs in the country, one of the best nutrition programs in the country. You know, we feel like we're sending a lot of players to the NFL that have come in here and gone through the process and developed. And so there's a lot of reasons that guys want to stay. And if we're doing our job, you know, we're not going to have to worry about too many of those things. Coach.
Okay, a lot to unpack in that 2-minute answer. First of all, I'll make this point. I spent a lot of time last season, especially when TCU was struggling, talking about Sonny Dykes and his approach to program building, team building, and how I started to wonder openly, what is it that he is good at specifically? Because every coach has some sort of identifying factor that they hang their hat on. There's different ways to build a program. There's different ways to do it. Some coaches are great recruiters. They're great at acquiring talent. And that's the main thing they bring to the table. And so they get that talent. They try to put good coaches around them, good players around them, and they have success with talented rosters. Some are great developers, have a good eye for talent in maybe places that are less scouted. They develop their players to fit their system. They're good at the X's and O's aspect of the game. And when TCU was floundering last season, I questioned, like, what is it that Sonny, what's his strength as a coach? I feel like the end of last season and this off season has made it clear. What he is best at is building a culture, developing relationships with his players, gaining their trust, and keeping the team together. So he's talking about Josh Hoover. Josh has a chance to go to Tennessee. He turns that down. Now, it's worth noting, Josh is making good money at TCU. He's making over $1 million, reportedly. He's doing okay. But reportedly, he got a bigger offer from Tennessee, and he said, you know what? No thanks. This is where I want to be, right? Sonny talked about something that Mike Buddy made very similar comments a few weeks ago on that same YouTube channel, radio station, 365 Sports, where he discussed having the right types of players, pursuing the right types of players, not getting caught up in the new world of NIL where it's all about flashy cars and spending money and buying talent. I will say, if that's how TCU wants to go about building their program, that's fine. I think you can have success doing that. And it appears that the way that they are using their NIL resources right now is by retaining talent. They are trying to keep the people they have on campus, and they're successful at it. And part of that is building a culture, building relationships, gaining trust of the players, but also part of it is making sure that these guys are compensated and feel valued from a monetary perspective. The flashy cars, the flashy gifts, all that stuff on campus that he's talking about, that's a direct shot at Texas. And Texas might be an easy target, but bottom line is Steve Sarkisian's figured that thing out, okay? They played Ohio State a lot tougher than Notre Dame did in the national title game. They're a good team. They've got talented players. So if the way you want to build this thing is with continuity, I think that's great. And I feel like this is sort of a make or break year to test that theory because you have all the ingredients and all the pieces that you feel like you need. And you withstood an off season here, a spring portal window where you didn't really lose anybody. You made it through the fall portal window or the winter portal window without really losing anybody. The players that you lost were mainly depth pieces. Your starters are back. So that's very encouraging. My question is, I believe when Sonny was hired, the reason he got the job at TCU was because he did a great job at SMU. He seemed to understand the transfer portal, have an edge there. And their vision for Sonny at TCU was ace recruiter who can build a good coaching staff, who can get a talent advantage on the field. He can have everybody pulling the rope in the same direction, rowing the boat. The vibes are good. People feel empowered. They feel like they can do their job. They go play at a high level. If you can't separate yourself from a talent perspective in the Big 12, then what do you have to do? You have to win these games from a strategy standpoint. I would say so far that's not something that Sonny has shown is a big strength of his. So you've accomplished one piece of this puzzle. You've built a good culture. And I truly believe that. That's not just lip service on my part. Say what you want about the schedule at the end of the year and it not being impressive. When they were 3-3 and headed in that bye week, I thought this thing was headed towards disaster. Because there were alarm bells all over the place. It felt like the team was, they weren't living up to expectations. And it felt like from an outsider perspective, they were teetering on the rest of the season was going to be, well, what are you going to do? Right? Let's pack it in and let's get ready for next year. They didn't do that. They made some adjustments. They believed in one another. They got a big win on the road in Utah, ugly ball game, but they found a way to win, and that turned their whole season around. It changed the trajectory of the season. He got those guys to stick together and believe in the face of some adversity. He got them to stay through this offseason and through spring camp when there were opportunities elsewhere. So what's the next step? You got to be prepared on Saturdays. Schedule's tougher this year. You're going to have to beat Colorado, BYU, Iowa State. You can't go below a tire like you did last season against UCF and Houston. You just can't do it. There's too much at stake. But I am really impressed in this world of NIL and the portal, where really for the players, you can sort of be a free agent anytime you want. That's tempting. And he thinks part of it is that they identify players that maybe aren't as swayed by that as others. But everybody's got a price, right? So the fact that they've kept this team together through all of that is super impressive. But now what do you do once the season starts? How do you capitalize on the talent that you have in that locker room? How do you capitalize on a good culture, on these players believing in one another? That's the next step for TCU football. And if you want to build this thing on continuity and guys developing and getting better, then this is a year where we really test what that looks like, because it feels like you're at the peak of your development cycle. And you've got a lot of players who are kind of in their last go around, last opportunity to make something happen. What can he do on the field? That's the big question coming up in a few months. When we come back, speaking of the portal and continuity, staying put with this offensive line room for the most part, what does that mean for this team next season? We'll talk about that here on Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day. Bills are coming out here in a few days. Go to monarchmoney.com or download the Monarch Money app today. Start figuring out where your money goes. Take out the guesswork. Stop opening up your online bank account and saying to yourself, what the heck happened? Use Monarch Money to track your spending. Let them help you find those unwanted or unused subscriptions that you've just been letting go on auto pay for months. You can also track your investments. You can build wealth. It's a great app for you and your spouse, you and your partner. You can put all your joint accounts, all your separate accounts in one place, and you can get a clearer picture of what your finances look like. Stop procrastinating. Stop putting it off. Go to monarchmoney.com. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off your first year. I was not a math major. I was a broadcasting major, but I know that 50% is half off your first year. That's pretty good. monarchmoney.com or the Monarch Money app. Give it a try today. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. On yesterday's episode, I talked about TCU adding a couple of players to their defense. FCS All-American linebacker Michael Thiessen from Missouri State. Also Ryan Yates from Cal. Ryan Yates is a local kid, originally from Denton, played his high school ball at Denton Guyer, spent some time at LSU. Cal now comes over to TCU, reuniting with new TCU safeties coach Trey Watson, who coached him last season. In the comment section of that YouTube video, which you can always chime in there You can give me some positive feedback. You can give me negative feedback. It's up to you. But Devil Frog said, we just got an offensive lineman from ACU. I love that we are taking care of the trenches and our front 6 and 7. Yes, Dylan Kinney is who you're referring to. Did a segment on him last week, but sort of an under the radar pickup out of Abilene Christian. Spent 3 years there. Didn't play much his first 2 seasons, but last year played in every game. Had a number of starts. Graded out really well according to Pro Football Focus. I like that pickup. I don't think Kenny is a player that's going to play for you right away. But I do believe that he's a dude that can get integrated in the system, kind of get his sea legs under him, figure out what this looks like at the Power 4 level, and then could be a big-time contributor for you next year, which you need depth everywhere, but especially in the trenches across the offensive line. I like that they have attacked the offensive line and made that a priority, both in high school recruiting and in the portal. I will say, if I were them, I would have gone after more of an impact starter type in the transfer portal. Now, I understand their thought process. I know that they like what Ryan Hughes brings to the table. I know that they like what Ben Taylor Whitfield has done. They believe in moving Colton Deary to center. They believe in Carson Bruno and Remington Strickland. Cade Bennett coming back from an injury. I understand all that. And I get that, at a certain point, you sort of have to not roll the dice. That's probably the wrong term, but you have to say to yourself, we recruited these guys. We brought them in to be football players. They have to play. They have to play, and we have to see for ourselves, is this, somebody who could be a contributor for us in the short term or the long term. The only way to do that is to throw them in the game. I just see an opportunity here. I think you're on the cusp of doing something really big this season. Playing for a Big 12 championship, possibly making the college football playoff. The thing that you need to solidify is the run game. Now, that's not solely on the offensive line. Your running backs have something to do with that too, but I'm a big believer in your O-line can make a running back look really great. Rarely do your running backs make an offensive line look great. They can help. They can help a lot by getting those tough yards, by getting north and south, not going down easily on contact, reading the blocking schemes well. But if you can shove people around and push people around, you can make a lot of running backs look really good. I might share this audio tomorrow, but Sonny was asked about Ryan Hughes and Ben Taylor Whitfield specifically, and he said they love both of those guys. Hughes is a dude that really came on. He was a big surprise to them. They did not think he would so quickly be someone who could contribute to this team. But just with the way he played and the things that he was doing in practice, and then they threw him, he forced his way into the lineup. They threw him into the fire in a couple of those games, and he excelled. So those are your 2 tackles. Young players at the tackle position. There's going to be some growing pains, but if those dudes can hold their own, this could be a really salty team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I do wonder. I think last year's offensive line, yes, the run game struggled, but pass protection-wise and pass pro, they were really good. They gave Josh Hoover a lot of time to throw. So, is there a world where you could be better at downhill running the ball, but maybe you struggle a little bit more in pass protection? And what does that trade-off look like for this team? We'll have to see. If you want to run vertical routes, if you want to run double moves, if you want to get the ball down the field and push the ball down the field, you got to block it up. You got to protect. That's step 1. TCU is going to have to show an ability to do that on a week-to-week basis. Because Bless Harris, he was a veteran presence. I thought he did a solid job overall. His biggest strength was protecting Josh Hoover in the passing game. That's where he was at his best. So that's what Ryan Hughes is going to have to replicate. And if you can come close to that in a pass protection standpoint, then that's really good. And then whatever you get on the run game is helpful as well. But yes, Dylan Kinney, Abilene Christian lineman. I like it. I like the pickup. I think it's a good depth piece. I think it's, somebody who can come in and give it a shot to play. He was a tackle at Abilene Christian. I think at his size, he's going to project more as a guard here at TCU. But we'll see once he takes the field and gets after it for the first time with the coaching staff, with A.J. Ricker, Randy Clements, new assistant offensive line coach, and the rest of that offensive staff once fall camp starts. TCU baseball takes down UTA in their last midweek game of the season. That's next year on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Well, the big question mark going into this week and really the rest of the year, and it's odd to say this because TCU's pitching staff, their starting pitching is still not totally figured out. They don't have a third starter at the moment or an established one. Caden Parker, still kind of an adventure. He threw the ball well last week. Tommy Lepore's nails. But for a team that doesn't have defined roles in your pitching staff this late in the season, you would think the thing that gives us Frog fans anxiety when we talk about a regional and possibly hosting in the Big 12 tournament and everything that's coming up is what are you going to do on the mound? But actually, I think the bigger question is, can this offense figure it out? Well, today's game, they won 3-1 against UTA. It didn't really answer that question because they only scored 3 runs. But this was a true everybody on deck pitching performance. A complete game shutout from 8 different pitchers. Cole Klecker started the game, went an inning. Mason Bixby went an inning. Cohen Fesser threw 2 innings. Noah Franco threw an inning. Caden Smith, Nate Stern, Luis Rodriguez, and then Cade Eady with the save, his 6th save of the season. Of all of those names, the 2 that sort of raised my eyebrows the most. Good to see Cole Klecker out there. It'd been a little bit. And I don't know how they're going to use him the rest of the year. He made a couple spot Saturday starts. He's been a midweek guy. Only threw 1 inning tonight. I feel like there's a role for him, though, the rest of the season. I just think the way he pounds the strike zone, yeah, he's prone to go some home runs too. But the way he throws strikes, his versatility, that's going to lend itself to some opportunities later this year. And then it was nice to see Noah Franco out there. Noah got some chances too in that starter's role early in the year and was inconsistent, but he's got good stuff. And, is he going to be a starter? No, I don't foresee that he'll be a starting arm in the postseason. But could he give you an inning here or there? I think that's a possibility. Could he give you 2 innings one night? He gets swings and misses. He can throw in the mid-90s. Like, surely there's a place for Noah Franco. He also had a big RBI double with 2 outs in the 8th that pushed that lead to the 3-1, 3-0. But yeah, impressive win for this TCU team over UTA. Went over there to Arlington and got beat earlier this year, but redeemed it. Also, I said a shutout. They didn't shut them out. They gave up 1 run, but a good pitching performance with 8 different pitchers on the mound and a 3-1 victory to add to the ledger there. They get a big series with Arizona coming up this weekend, a weekend series with Cincinnati after that, close on the road against Utah, and that's the regular season. So we'll see what D1 and other sites project them to be in their upcoming like field of 64 projections. That'll tell us a lot about what needs to happen the rest of the year for this TCU baseball team. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Subscribe to the YouTube channel or find us on your favorite podcast platform.